Hello everyone, welcome to the video. So I audit around 10 to 20 e-commerce D2C brands every single week, and we follow this Klaviyo audit process. This helps us really understand what a brand is doing on their email marketing, and it also helps us actually build a custom proposal for that brand because we work with D2C brands on managing their end-to-end email marketing. So we've developed this process of having 5 different pillars based on which we calculate the Klaviyo score for any e-commerce D2C brand. And those 5 pillars are opt-ins, flows, campaigns and segmentation, deliverability, and finally branding and design. And we feel that all of the work that needs to be done for any brand to improve their performance on Klaviyo, to improve their user journey and user communication and their branding is all in these 5 pillars, right? So let's get started with the first one. How do you get your cold traffic into your email list? That's the question that you answer with the opt-ins. And this is basically how you acquire most of the people in the email list. So if you look at your user journey, people would typically land from either search ads or social ads or SEO or any of your organic channels as well onto your website. Now, this is your opportunity to either convert them through the conversion funnel or to get them into an email list if they're not ready to buy yet. So it's very clear that 90 to 95% of the people who land on your website are not going to take an action, are not going to make a purchase, are probably not even going to add to cart, right? So let's say 5 to 10% of people will add to cart. So what happens to the rest 90%? You don't want to lose them. So you want to get them into some sort of zero-party data that you have access to, whether it's email or phone, and in some cases even push notifications. So opt-ins help you do all of this. So if you have a single opt-in, you can get people into your email list because that's your number one retention channel for e-com. If you have a dual opt-in, you can get them in your email list and your phone number, so your phone number list as well. So that depends on whether you use a single opt-in or a dual opt-in. You could also test with exit intent pop-ups, which also serve as an opt-in, or you could show a deal or a discount code on your exit intent if you don't want to use it to serve as an opt-in. So those are all the things that you can do to basically not waste the money on driving this traffic, but instead having them enter an email list, which you could then use to send them welcome emails, campaigns, and so forth. And eventually, through these means, you can convert them, right? The second thing is flows. So how well are these brands doing on flows? How do they nurture subscribers and drive conversions based on the user journey using automation? That's what flows are all about. Then you have campaigns and segmentation. How do they reach the audience through targeted segmentation on specific holidays, on specific seasonality deals, seasonal deals, or campaigns from time to time? Maybe it's a newsletter, or maybe it's an update that they want to reach customers. So if it's based on the user journey through automation, then it then it goes into the flows category. If it's through targeted outreach based on a calendar, which is what we typically do with our clients, we have a monthly calendar that we prepare in advance for all the campaigns that have to go out in that month, right? The next pillar is, are we actually reaching the inbox? So we're sending all of these emails. What's the score out of 100 of how well are we doing on this front? And finally, it's branding and design. It's one thing to send emails, it's another thing to be able to communicate your brand effectively. And we do this by creating a database of templates, by following the brand books that the clients have, and so forth. All of these 5, and they're not scored equally. So I'll tell you what the weightage of each of these pillars is. But opt-ins, flows, and campaigns and segmentation, those 3 pillars hold the most importance in our audit. And then deliverability and branding and design are the secondary pillars. But with a combination of these 5 pillars, we are able to score every Klaviyo account out of 100. And we've seen businesses that work with us go from a 30 to 60, grow from a 40 to 80, go from a 50 to 90, or even from a 10 to 30 to 60 to 90 score on 100. So it also helps us track overall how they are performing. Because you may see Klaviyo accounts that are doing 30, 40, even 45, 50% of revenue from Klaviyo. And once you start working with them, you might be able to push them up to 60 or 65% because these are basically retention-driven brands. But you cannot get an idea just by looking at the percentage of revenue unless you do an audit of this sort. So let's start with opt-ins, right? So what are we looking at here? What kind of value are you bringing in exchange for which people will share their email address? Is it join the tribe, join the community, or something very generic like that, which a lot of brands use? Or is it more discount driven? Get 10% off on your first order, get 15% off on your first order, get $10 off on your first order, get 20 pounds off on your first order? Or is it content based? If it's an educational journey where you have to make users aware about a certain industry or a product before you actually sell them, is it a free ebook? Is it a free course? So what is the lead magnet? Now, in most cases with e-com D2C brands, some of the best conversions come from the discount driven opt-ins, and it's no surprise. But within that, what's the CTA? What's the color of the button? What's the text that you're using on the button? So all those things matter. We try to optimize brands to get to a certain threshold of performance. So we do measure the conversion rates of the opt-ins, and that's what you should be doing if you're working with a brand, or if you are an e-commerce brand. Look at what's the conversion rate of how much cold traffic can you convert to your email list through your lead magnets, right? So if you're doing a 3%, you probably can do a 6% if that's your industry standard. Then you need to figure out all of the A/B tests and experiments that you need to run to get from that 3% to a 6%. Right? And that's the process. You have to take an experiment, data-driven growth marketing approach to actually run all of these tests and improve the opt-in rate. The next one is pop-ups. What's the time delay, right? So when I say well-timed, what I mean is some brands have an average time to purchase of 1 minute. That means it takes 1 minute for a person to make a purchase. And then what we do is we take a 5 to 10% of that. So that becomes 5 seconds to 10 seconds. And that's the range in which we experiment the pop-up time. So it's all data driven, right? There is a 3 second to 6 second window for someone in case the AOV is around $60, let's say, for example. So it really depends on what your AOV is and what your time to purchase metric is. And based on that, you can decide how soon or how later to show the pop-up. You can also base it based on the user behavior and all sorts of things, right? Embedded forms are within your website. So let's say on your footer, for example, and these forms will give you a secondary way of opting people in, right? Social media, you could also promote your opt-ins on social media channels. Okay, next let's move to flows. So what's the flow strategy look like? And the flow strategy really depends on the brand and the user journey, but this will help you decide what are all the flows that you need. We do have a list of around 8 to 10 essential flows that we try to have for most of our clients. So right from the welcome flow to all of the abandonment flows to your post-purchase flow, starting with those basic ones and then expanding from there, and then finally moving on to sunset, VIP. So all of these flows are out there, but you'll have to see over time how many emails should you experiment with each. How much delay should you have between those emails? So let's say your welcome flow currently has 5 emails. Maybe if you add a 6th email, you start making a little bit more money. But maybe if you add a 7th email, you start losing subscribers. And then in that case, you'll have to calculate what's the cost of losing those subscribers. So let's say the CAC for you is £25 and you lose 10 subscribers. So you lose £250 from the 7th email. But if you make £200 back, you're still at a negative of £50. So you have to do that analysis instead of saying, okay, I just made $200 or £200 from this 7th email, so I'm going to keep it. But maybe you lost a lot of unsubscribers and now it doesn't make sense to keep that. So that's what you need to think about when it comes to flow strategy. If you're looking at an existing account, you can see how much money they're losing by the unsubscribes, if you know the CAC. And if you don't, if you're setting up afresh, then you basically start with 3 emails in the welcome flow, add a 4th one, add a 5th one, add a 6th one every 15 days or every week based on how much cold traffic there is. So the sample size would change based on how much traffic they are driving, right? So how many flows, how many emails per flow, how many emails in each flow, what kind of delays? Do we also add an SMS if they're using SMS? If not, should they use SMS? Most likely the answer is yes. If yes, how do we integrate it? How do we say, if you have the phone number, then do this. If you don't, then do this, and so forth. So all of that strategy comes into the flow strategy. And then finally, A/B testing this to improve it over time, right? Coming to campaigns, have your calendars in place. Make sure you're leveraging your seasons. Make sure you're leveraging your holidays. So when you're auditing, you have to look at all of these things. Are they doing all of this? Make your own checklist. Are they A/B testing subject lines on a regular basis? Are they A/B testing sending times? What kind of sending time options are they using? Are they letting Klaviyo decide it? Are they deciding themselves? Is their sending time based on the highest conversion rate timings from GA4? So you can pull that data up from GA4 and say, okay, these are the best times that people convert. Would it make sense to send out email campaigns just before these times so that by the time the highest conversion rate peak comes, people have the email in their inbox? Makes sense. Or These are times when in general people open their email, but is that the same time as when your segments open the email? Is the sending time based on the segments? So are they deciding the sending times based on each segment, or is it just the same for all segments? So all those kinds of questions will help you audit the segmentation as well, right? Within the campaigns, you can look at the design, you can look at the CTAs, you can look at the subject lines, you can look at the amount of A/B testing that's happening. So all of that falls into your audit for campaigns and segmentation. Then you have branding and design. Are their emails consistent? So if you open their third email in their abandonment flow and the recent campaign that they sent, does it look like it's coming from the same brand, or does it look like it's coming from two different brands? Is the footer the same? Are the social media icons on the footer the same? Is there enough trust badges on the footer? Are they the same trust badges, or are they outdated? Because many brands will forget to update their flows over a certain period of time. Are they aligned with the overall brand identity? When you go from the website to the welcome email, do you get lost, right? Do you feel that you're part of the same user journey, part of the same brand, or do you feel that you're out of that brand and you're entering another brand? So all those kinds of things. When you check the emails on mobile, is it mobile friendly? When you switch to dark mode on your phone, is it dark mode friendly? Now, in most cases, the Ecommerce D2C brands that we work with, majority of their traffic comes from mobile phones. So this is really important. In fact, when we audit design, we actually audit mobile first, and then we move on to desktop. Finally, are they using some sort of templates? This you can check in the Klaviyo account as well, because that streamlines the entire process and makes sure that there's repeatable brand identity. So once we're done with that, we come to the final pillar, which is deliverability. Okay, so are they cleaning up the email list from time to time? This is not just to save money from your Klaviyo billing, but also to make sure that you are sending emails to places where they will more likely be opened, and hence your deliverability will improve because your reputation will improve with the ESPs. Overall, you can also go in and check their technical records. Have they set up all of their records properly or not? You have DMARC, you have DKIM, so check all of those records. And finally, it's about the content itself. So how big the images are, how long the subject lines are. Is the content too long? Also, just from a user perspective, not just deliverability, but if it's too long and people have to click on a link to actually open the entire email, then it doesn't make sense to have such a long email. So all those kinds of things will come into how well you are able to reach the inbox. Finally, let's discuss how we calculate the audit score. So we have the opt-ins, which hold 25% of importance. We have the flows, which hold another 25%, campaigns and segmentation, another 25%. These three, like I said, are the primary pillars. And then we have branding and design, which we feel is slightly more important than deliverability, which can be improved over time. So 15%, having that consistent branding and good design that matches your brand identity, 15%. And finally, you deliver. How well do you deliver? 10%. And based on this, we end up with 100 audit score. And like I said, if you're an Ecommerce D2C brand, you may be at a 30% of revenue from email and still have a score of 20, 25 on your audit. That means you have way more potential. So don't judge your brand potential by how much percentage of revenue you're making from email. Judge it based on a proper detailed audit, because when you improve all of these factors, when you improve all of these metrics, overall, it'll all boil down to how much money you can make. And never forget that email is going to be one of the most profitable channels that you build for your e-commerce business. So if you're interested in working with us, getting an audit done and taking things forward, feel free to book a call. I'm going to leave a link of my calendar where you can book a call and discuss this entire process. And also we can do this entire audit for you, based on which we can create a strategy and a proposal to take things forward. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.